Hey y'all. I don't normally do this, but the new killer no. The new killer and new survivor came out for Dead by Daylight, and I wanted to talk about them a little bit. Mainly the killer, just because I don't really have anything to say about the survivor in any significant detail. But the killer was one that I wanted to talk about simply because I was looking at them, looking at their power, seeing what their power did. I haven't noticed, or not that I haven't noticed, I have noticed that this killer is basically the Huntress, but worse. They're basically like a weird combination of the Huntress and the Plague. So from the Huntress, they get the fact that, you have a projectile that moves in a relatively straight movement, but you have to hit them 8 times, from what I understand. 8 times, while the Huntress only has to hit you once. And once you've hit those, the necessary amount of times, they go down. But for the Trickster, as he is called, he and I just wanted to say I've kind of gone back and forth on how I feel about the way that the Trickster looks, and the fact that he's a K-pop star, and you know what, I'm fine with it. We've got a dead sexy, half naked shonen killer running around. Fine. We've gotten the kind of rustic killers down already. Why not just go completely off the walls crazy? I'm fine with the way the killer looks. But the fact that you have to hit the survivors 8 times, and if you don't down them immediately with your daggers, the damage that you've done to them starts to decrease, starts to degrade. And that's kind of like where his comparison to the Plague comes in, because the Plague, her power is she spews bile onto you, and that makes you sick. And then that sickness stays. It doesn't degrade, it doesn't go away, it stays. And it actually gets worse as time goes on if you're doing things. If you're just standing around or walking around and not doing anything, it stays the same. But if you're actually doing things, fixing generators, running around, it gets worse. But for this killer, or the longer you're just not being hit by these daggers, it gets better. It seems very short-sighted, if that makes sense. I've kind of looked through the killer's abilities, looked through their add-ons, and looked through their powers, and I've got a couple of things that I think that should be added to the killer just before are released fully. Like right now we're in PTB, we're in the testing phase. One thing I noticed is that one of his add-ons allows him to ricochet off of different things. So certain objects will ricochet his daggers or his throwing knives, and certain things won't. And I think that shouldn't be an add-on. That should be just part of his kit. And he's not the only killer that's kind of been a thing for. When the Demogorgon first came out, breaking pallets with his charge ability was not part of his base kit. It was a red add-on. And eventually he was considered so underpowered that they just added it as part of his kit, which was necessary and was good. It made the Demogorgon much better. And for the Trickster, I think it is kind of a necessity that it be part of his base kit. Because, and then also that kind of works with what he's called. He's called the Trickster. There's nothing really tricky about him other than the fact that he throws knives. If he throws knives and they ricochet, that kind of adds to, his character. That's kind of what he does and what his power does. The other thing is, I think that the daggers should not degrade unless one of two things happen. They should not degrade unless one, the Trickster hits the survivor like with a basic attack, kind of like the way Ghostface's stalk ability works. Or survivor is injured. They've gotten a bunch of daggers loaded up, but they escape, and then they get healed. Then I think the dagger should go away, or the damage done by the dagger should go away then. But they should not degrade over time, because from what I've seen, and I've had limited amount of time to play the character at this point when I'm recording this, but from what I've seen, even going into a basic chase, you can lose that dagger progression just in the chase that you're in, and that shouldn't be. That, like, a killer's power shouldn't be so weak that you degrade progress in that power in a simple chase. It just shouldn't be that way, in my opinion, of course. As far as anything else, I think that's the major thing that kind of needs to be changed, or those are the two of the major things that kind of need to be changed for this killer in order to make them better. As far as, working on specifics, like lowering the amount of daggers that might be needed to down survivors overall, I think that can be looked into after those two things have been addressed. But it's not really something that's like necessary, or not something like I feel like this is a character that could become extremely overpowered very easily, or they'll remain extremely underpowered. That way, and because of that, I don't want to give them 115% movement speed yet. I don't want to reduce... Sorry, a motorcycle's going past my house. I also don't want to reduce the amount of daggers that would be required to down the survivor quite yet, just because we don't know fully how this will all look, or how this will all work in the long run. But for now, I think those are two good changes to make to the killer's kit. But let me know what you think about the Trickster so far. Let me know if you think he's hot. Let me know if you think that the survivor is completely fabulous or not. And I will see you next time. Oh, and also, one thing, if you want to see me on play on Twitch, please follow the Twitch link down below, because you should, because I said so. I mean, not really. You can follow if you want, but I've been having a lot of fun playing with chat on Twitch recently, and I don't know. I think everybody would have fun. And if you haven't taken a look at my Patreon page, currently I am working up towards trying to do a monthly legendary outfit lore dive for each of the legendary outfits that are in the game, but I won't really be able to do that until I've kind of reached a point where the amount of money I'm making on Patreon covers the cost of actually purchasing those legendary outfits, because I'm not a fog whisperer. I don't get those outfits for free. But anyway, thank you for that small amount of self-advertisement. And I thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.